What's up, you guys? American, welcome back to my channel. No, you grow up. So today's video was originally supposed to come out last Thursday, but I was so stoked when I got those glow-in-the-dark Super 7 figures that I just wanted to do a video on those guys right away. So I pretty much had everything shot, everything ready to go, and I will apologize because I've been having a lot of microphone issues lately. I don't know what's going on, but it's been a really big pain to work around with editing and stuff like that. Like, my mic just keeps popping in and out. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't have any of those issues, but I'm a moron and I was just too far away from the mic, so it's kind of echoey. The audio is not the best on this one. I'm almost 50 videos in at this point, and I'm still doing rookie mistakes like this. But I know you guys are definitely not here for my production value, let's be real. So let's just start talking about these figures. Alright, you guys, so here's the starting field for my top 10 figures of the year. So I just started looking at my shelves, grabbing figures that I liked a lot. This is where I was at. There's some figures you don't really see me talk about too often here, like my SH Figure Arts Dragon Ball figures. Talked about G.I. Joe a lot on here, talked about Motu a lot on here, talked about Marvel Legends kind of a surprisingly low amount, and soon I'll be showing you the update to my Marvel Legends display. And again, I pretty much only collect X-Men and then the Spider-Man retro carded figures. I can't remember if I told you the criteria for my list in the last one, but I don't count figures that I haven't opened as contenders in this. If I haven't opened them and haven't played with them, I can't really judge them. So none of my Spider-Man figures I open for the time being anyway. Down the road when I have more room, I'll probably end up breaking all those figures out one day. But for now, I just really like the way they look on card. But getting back to these guys. So I'm going to take a look at all these guys. I'm going to narrow it down to my top 10. I'm going to do my first 5 out and then my second 5 out, and then we'll get into the top 10. Alright, you guys, so if you haven't figured this out yet, I'm a moron. There was actually 21 figures sitting on here, and this is going to be my first 6 out. So taking a look at these figures, it's a pretty awesome lineup. I'm not going to lie, these 21 figures I really do like a lot. I love every single one of these figures, but this was even just weeding out my first 6 was pretty difficult. So we'll start in the middle back there. So the only Transformer figure in here, and I guess, I don't know, maybe you can argue Transformers aren't really an action figure, but I consider them to be, at least when they're in their bot mode anyway. The Tyrannosaurus Sentry, really like that figure. If you pre-ordered that figure, then you know all about the hiccups with that. I mean, it was like a 2-year pre-order or some shit on that figure. It was insane. And it was through Target, so they do the thing where they keep charging and refunding and charging and refunding them. Oh my God, it was so annoying. And then they just ended up being plentiful in stores anyway, so cool. Moving over to the Bat. The Bat was a figure that I had as a kid, and he was one of my favorite G.I. Joe figures that I had. I would play with just one figure at a time when I was a kid a lot. I don't know why. It was just really easy for me to have just adventures with one figure. And I use the Bat as just like a generic cyborg trooper. Really like all the arm attachments, really like the nostalgic feel to it. He is a really good figure, but just wasn't as good as the other Joe figures that got a little bit ahead of him. The 2 Motu figures, we got Wonder Bread He-Man or Wondar. I really like that figure. I know everybody says Zodak is just kind of like one of the lamest figures, but I really like Zodak. I like his armor, so having the black armor on the brown-haired He-Man, I don't know, it just speaks to me. Maybe it's because I'm a dude with brown hair and I like black. Moving over to Anti-Eternia He-Man, or as I like to call him, Murdered Out He-Man. He's a dope-ass figure. Just changing him to all black and adding the red hair. I mean, honestly, I wish he was all black. Like, I wish he was truly murdered out and just black on black on black everything. He's not truly murdered out, but it's just a fun phrase to use. My biggest problem with this figure, if you take a look at his left arm, they didn't hit it with the gloss, and I'm super annoyed because I would have bought a second one if I saw him in stores. People had them showing up at Ollie's and stuff like that, and I checked my Ollie's around that time and I couldn't find any. And it's one of those QC issues that's the reason he fell so low on the list, because he probably would have been higher. So the dead center figure there, Wolverine, is probably my second biggest bummer outside of the Super 7 Krang for me this year. He just has that little dot of missing paint on his face, and he looks like he has a Marilyn Monroe mole, and it drives me nuts. When I first got him, the yellow was smeared all over the black too, and I actually scratched that off with a razor and got that looking a lot better. It was just such a big bummer though. My other head sculpt is fine, but this is the one I want to display him with, and it's super annoying that it just has this QC issue that he's the furthest figure from me when I walk into my room, and it's the first thing I see when I walk in the room is that little dot of paint that's missing. And I know it just seems very petty. I know I'm doing a lot more bitching than I usually do, but it just bums me out because other than that, this is probably the best Wolverine figure that we've had so far from Hasbro. I really like the claws on him. I wish the comic version had these claws. They're so much better than the ones they were using at the time. But yeah, he's a great looking figure, but just because that one little blemish is on his face and it's just all I see when I look at him. It just dropped him real low on my top 10 list. All right, you guys, so these are my first 5 figures out. So these figures would rank like 11 through 15 in no particular order. And again, some really tough cuts made here. So let's start with Gung Ho. I really like that Gung Ho. He's definitely the one I want. He's the one I use in my display, and I actually ended up using my other one for something else, which you're gonna see here pretty soon. It's pretty cool. But take a look at that one. He is just what I really like about Joe. It's just a ridiculous color. It doesn't even make sense. It's like that aqua teal, whatever the hell it is. Like, I don't know why, but it just works for me, and I just really like the second one that we got better than the first one. Sticking with the Joes, moving over to Storm Shadow. I know a lot of people don't like this version because of the gloves or some shit, but I think he's a dope figure. I'm not gonna get the other one. He's good enough for me. I really like him. Again, I'm very, very cliche. When I was a kid, I loved ninjas. Snake Eyes was my favorite Joe. So of course I like Storm Shadow because he was another ninja and he was his nemesis. And man, I really hope this line just lasts long enough to where we can get to some Ninja Force figures and I can get my slice and dice. All right, let's take a look at the big dog in the middle there, Apocalypse. I really like this figure. It's really cool that I have an Apocalypse, but I'm gonna put an asterisk on it because I would much rather have the comic accurate version. That's the main X-Men display that I'm building. It's really cool that I'm getting all the animated series figures and stuff like that too, and this is where this Apocalypse is gonna go because I think he fits in better with those figures. Even though he doesn't have the cell shading, he just looks a lot more accurate to the TV show. Again, not a bad figure, but I would just like him if he was that darker blue, that shinier paint, and I just am not going to pay that kind of money for a figure on the aftermarket, so I'm never going to get that Build-A-Figure, and I'm hoping we just get a repaint of this guy down the road. Alright, so let's take a look at the Power Rangers TMNT crossover Raph, and I love this figure. When I was so excited for this line to come out, and he was the first set that I got, and I played with him so much when I first got him. He's such a dope figure, but there's another Ranger figure that I like a little bit more. I just played with the Raph so much, so it's pretty obvious that Donnie's going to be in my top 10 since you haven't seen him yet in the cuts. And I didn't even play with that figure as much because I was kind of over it because I was playing with other figures after I'd gotten the Raph and played with him so much. But the Donnie just looks better. Wanna know why? Because the Black Ranger is always the coolest looking Ranger. Outside the Green Ranger, of course. Green Ranger was always my favorite when I was a kid, but when it was the original 5, Black Ranger was the dopest one. So moving over to Krillin, or Kieran, if you watch the non-dubbed version, this figure is dope. He was a very, very, very hard one to leave out. There was a good chance that all 3 of these SH Figuarts Dragon Ball figures were going to make it in, but there was just a couple other figures that I wanted to squeak in right by Krillin, and honestly, he could be in and out of my top 10 at any given day. SH Figuarts figures, I just wish there was more stuff that I liked from them, and I wish most of the Dragon Ball figures weren't so expensive, so that's kind of what just keeps me on the fence about that line. Slowly but surely, I'm going to be working on that Dragon Ball collection. And again, the SH Figuarts figures are just dope, and I'll talk about them a little bit more later once we get into my actual top 10, which is coming up right now. Alright you guys, so here it is, my top 10 Not TMNT figures of the year. And yes, there's still some turtles in here, but again, counting those crossover figures as Power Rangers figures, I know they're characters from the Turtles universe, but the comic was a Boom comic, which is a Power Rangers comic. These figures are Hasbro figures, which are Power Rangers figures. So I'm counting these as Power Rangers figures. With all that bullshit out of the way, let's start counting these guys down. Alright, so coming in at number 10 is my SH Figuarts Piccolo. Now, him and Krillin were very, very tight for 10 and 11. I could have picked either one, but I went with Piccolo just because I like Piccolo a little bit better as a character. Piccolo is probably one of my favorite Dragon Ball characters. I've always really liked him ever since he kind of started taking over for Goku, because let's be real, Saiyans are the worst dads ever. Yeah, but again, these SH Figuarts figures, they're just so good. I love the way they feel. He is a little bit lighter in the chest, like the plastic in his chest is a little bit hollow. You can feel it's pretty light, but again, it's all in the lower body. The weight they have, their low center of gravity just makes these guys such dope figures. Coming to number 9, we got Sergeant Slaughter. So, really recent pickup for me. I guess not really a recent pickup, but it took me a long time to open them, and as soon as I got him out of package, I just really like this guy. He's one of the most accurate looking of the Joes. Like, it just looks so good. Like, I was just so stoked to get him out. He comes with so many cool accessories, and like I said, he's just one of my favorite Joe figures now. I like that he's big, I like that he's a badass. I've just always really liked Sarge ever since he came on the show. Coming in at number 8 here is Bone Breaker. So, one of the few Build-A-Figures that I have complete, and he was one that I was definitely going to go after because I really like the Reavers. They're one of my favorite villain groups. I know a lot of people like trash on his head sculpt and stuff like that, but I think this figure is awesome. He's just such a ridiculous design. Like, I just have so many questions about this guy. Like, do you think he has genitals? How does he poop? Does he have just like a tube or something like that? How does he sleep? Does he just like flop over to the side? There's just so many questions with this design that I have that normal adults shouldn't really be thinking about. But jokes aside, just a really wicked, ridiculous character. And again, the Outback X-Men, that's a really cool run in the comics. This was a really cool episode in the show. I never had the Toy Biz figure as a kid. I got this Build-A-Figure now, and I'm really happy that I'm able to put that Reavers team together here soon. Alright, coming in at number 7 is Grizzlor. So, I think he's my favorite Motu Origins figure of all time. I don't know what it is. I just relate to this big hairy bastard. Like, the second I got him, I just thought he looked so ridiculous. The fur or hair, whatever, like, it's surprisingly soft. It looks like it'd be pretty coarse, but I don't know. There's just something about this figure that speaks to me. The Horde's my favorite faction. I think it has some of the coolest looking designs, and I think he's just the best out of all of them. Coming at number 6 is the Alley Viper, and he came out really early in the year along with the Bat, and he was one that I never had as a kid, but as soon as I got this figure, again, just like Gung Ho, I love these bright, loud, ridiculous colors that would just be terrible for actual military services. Yeah, I don't know what it is. This design's sweet. I really like the visor on him. Just, I don't know, all covered visors like that just always speak to me. I don't know what it is. It's just something about that helmeted head. Like, I don't know, they're always figures that I really like. Just the faceless troopers. Comes with a ton of cool weapons, ton of cool accessories. Yeah, they could definitely be painted a little bit better, but I don't know, I really like this figure. He's my favorite trooper. He was one that was really hard to sell all my other figures for and just stick to the one, but it's what I had to do. There's no reason I had the amount of Joe figures I have because, again, I really like them. I liked Joe as a kid, but I'm just running out of space for things. I can't collect everything. I don't have room for everything. I kept all the troopers because the troopers are some of my favorite figures, and this is my favorite trooper. Alright, coming in number 5 is my SH Figuarts Frieza, and this guy is so tiny. I couldn't believe how small he was when I got him, and I don't know why, but it just made it so charming to me, and I love this figure. He just feels great, like all SH Figuarts do, and just manipulating these joints, you'll just never feel smoother, tighter joints than you do with SH Figuarts. Having the crossed arms that I have on him right now, kind of pulling his shoulders pretty far out of the socket, so that could definitely be cleaned up a little bit, but that's kind of how a lot of SH Figuarts figures are. They leave a lot of room for range of motion in the shoulders, but I just really like these cross arms that can go on there, and just, I don't know, just this little guy. If you watch the show, when he's in his final form, there's just something intimidating about this little shit. He's so small, but he's just such a problem. I love him as a villain. He has no redeemable qualities. He is just terrible, and that's what I love about him. Coming in at number 4 is my Power Rangers TMNT crossover Donatello figure. So, like I said, he does everything that the Raph does, but he just does it better because the black figure is always the coolest figure, man. He just looks so sweet. That black and gold color scheme. I really hope we get the Omega Rangers because I really like the Black Ranger in that one too. The Omega Rangers look dope, and they're my biggest want that I don't have right now. But this Donnie figure is just sick. I love these designs. I love these figures. And again, he's just my favorite one because I just think the Black Ranger is the coolest looking one out of the original 5. Coming in at the 3 spot is Mojo. And again, this figure, way too expensive for what it cost at the end of the day. But I really like him. It's the one that I wanted. And he just has so much shelf presence. Like, this is just such a cool figure. Kind of going back on what I said earlier, this one definitely looks a lot more like the animated version. And that's what I wanted out of this figure, because when I think Mojo, I think the animated version. And I don't know why that differs with Apocalypse, but it does. When I saw this one, I just knew it was the one I wanted. And he's just such a sick figure. Again, for this one, definitely way overpriced at the end of the day, but I'm very happy that I have him. That money spent, no crying about it now.
coming in as my runner-up number 2 figure is the animated series Cyclops, and this figure, it's damn near perfect. Like, outside, again, just a little bit of issues with the deco here, but it doesn't bother me like the Wolverine does. Everything else on him just looks great. I don't know what it is about his hair, but I just really like how that looks on this figure. I like that we're finally going with the keyed in little yellow pieces there so they're not slipping and sliding everywhere. But he's just solid. This new Buck is just so good. And again, I mentioned this in my video when I opened him up. I know a lot of people think he's a little too buff to be Cyclops, but when I think of my X-Men, I think of 90s Jim Lee X-Men. Everybody was jacked, everybody was in awesome shape, and that's exactly what I see when I look at this Cyclops. Damn near perfect figure. If you get any of the figures from this line, he's definitely the one to get. Alright, so Wild Knight, I feel like you're just trying to make me look like a fool, man, calling my shots before I take them, calling me out for saying I don't like stylized turtles in front of all my stylized turtles. God, I'm a moron. But Wild Knight, you called it. This guy is my number 1 figure of the year. And this guy is amazing. Like, he is just everything that I would want in a mashup. Shredder's sick looking, the Green Ranger is sick looking. Put them together, and you just get this awesome ass figure. He's got the soft goods cape, which is very few and far between for Hasbro properties, so it's very surprising they put it on this figure. It's got the weathered look to it and stuff like that, and it just looks so good. Like, I just really don't have enough good things to say about this figure. Like, this figure is just so beautiful. It's so perfect. It really is just a dream mashup for me, and this guy came out looking far and away the best out of all the designs. Like I said, he would probably crack the top 5 of my actual TMNT top 10, and it's an amazing figure. He's the only single pack figure, and if you find this guy floating around, I highly suggest you pull the trigger and get him.
Alright, you guys, gonna wrap things up for this one. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Let me know what some of your favorite non-TMNT figures of the year were in the comments below. Thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking. And once again, thank you to all the lurkers out there who don't comment, who don't like, who just watch my videos. You're cool too. Take it easy, be safe, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.